Quick enough.
Well, it looks good. How are you guys liking it so far? How's it been?
Cryptopia?
Yeah.
It's been good.
Were you at the last one last year?
No, I was still in the UK,
Oh, that's right.
but you weren't. Did you come to it last year?
No, I did not. It was I'm only into this space for about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I've been in a lot of innovation conferences for sure with Vivian and others.
Yeah.
So yeah. Right. I mean, I've been going 100 miles an hour since I've been here. But
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just getting
Yeah.
getting nice and set up.
fine-tuned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So let's talk about smart today.
Okay.
That sounds like
Yeah.
the thing to do. I saw you guys had like a thing downstairs. I didn't get a chance to actually go through it yet. What's the call to action today?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The call to action is threefold. Number one, people can join the waitlist.
Mhm.
We're not doing any node sales at this point. We're waiting until we have mainnet and we are all set up on that.
Dope.
Also, we're really hammering, making sure that we're really strong on like what is the utility and like why would somebody want to buy it
Mhm.
or get involved with the project, even if the token, which you have to say that it could never go anywhere. And so like, what's the value that somebody gets out of it? And part of the value leads to the second two items, which is you can sign up for a free solar consultation to get a residential home solar system through Ulven Solar, and also sign up for a smart home consultation as well.
That's
And
awesome.
so there's 3 QR codes. It just cycles through,
Yeah.
and anybody can sign up and choose to engage with how much they want to engage.
Okay. So, I mean, let's go through those, like that first one.
Yeah.
The actual utility and all of that. Can you talk about what your plans are, your ideas are there?
Yeah. To say it in a sentence, and we still need to align if this is the right sentence that we want to use like publicly going forward, but it's my home, my data, my wallet. And so this concept of that, we believe that a user should be sovereign over their data.
Mhm.
And a natural fit for us, given particularly with Tom and his experience with smart home and solar, and within just the team that we've built, is to start with literally the home, to start with smart home data and solar data, and to build from there
Mm-hmm.
and to create value both on terms of the Web 2 side of actual systems, physical systems, and then on the Web 3 side of the sovereignty concept, this
Yeah.
holy grail of crypto.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, let me backtrack a little bit just for the sake of the content.
Yeah.
Tom, can you tell people who you are, what your background is?
Sure. So I've been in the crypto blockchain space for about a year. Our ecosystem leader and I go back about 25 years. He was a customer of mine back in the day. I've been in the smart home and solar industry for about just north of 25 years. Just don't want to give you too much information on that, but I do have a lot of gray hair. And so we built one of the largest solar companies in the United States and was able to liquidate that some time ago. And we did the same thing with the smart home company that we went through a couple change of controls with Goldman and Blackstone and finally liquidated that just recently to a company called NRG. So prior to that, they were my customers. I had a wholesale monitoring company that looked at and kind of took control of all the interactions between their customers and my personnel, making sure people were safe and they were being economic with their usage, whether it be energy or whatever the case was. So I thought that I was going to retire March 10th of last year. I did.
Congrats.
But,
Yeah.
I spent like 2 hours at home. My wife said, you got to go get a job. And
Yeah.
decided
He's
to
back
come
on the
back
street
and
with the cardboard sign.
found a couple guys to work with, and
Yeah.
now we're rolling.
It makes sense that you'd be in this space then.
Yeah.
So that's cool. How about yourself, Thomas?
Yeah, so I come from originally came out of college with going into investment advice through Wells Fargo, got into digital investment platforms, and knew that I wanted to go try to build companies. And so I went and got an MBA, and this opportunity came up, and had to jump on board and had to learn
Yeah.
how to grow. So, but I come from the heavy product, heavy systems thinking side.
Mm-hmm. So with that, what, now back to the actual topic at hand, what are we looking at as far as like what's included in the smart home stuff? How does that relate to my wallet at all? Like, can you tell me a little bit more about
Maybe I should
that?
take the first part. And
Yeah,
you
for
can take-
sure.
So the data points that you can get from a smart home are infinite. There's sensors for everything now, right? And that's just the whole evolution of smart home. My former employer and myself kind of changed the whole concept in the entire what was security industry. And so when I left, we were collecting about 2.2 billion points of data a day across 2.2 million homes. We were able to put that into a platform. Now you have all this user data with about 10 home years on average.
Mhm.
And so there's really, really robust data there to say, okay, you can learn by talking to data scientists a lot about that. And so one initiative we did there was to say, okay, look, when you do data monetization, you want to do it, or at least I wanted to do it in a way that it was beneficial first for our customers and then also accretive to the company. So after a lot of research with some of the biggest players in the space, biggest reassurers, the claims providers, we decided that we were going to take a shot at insurance. We were able to do that over time. We were found to be 45% less likely based on the product that we were putting into their homes and their usage information. That gave us enough reason to say, hey, we should go start an insurance agency. And then eventually, as we're doing that and learning the insurance space, to go build an MGA. Same goes with solar, right? And so solar, we have a vision on solar. Some of the things we're working on that I won't talk about today, but going with solar and residential and be able to pull that data up into the cloud in connection with smart home data to understand energy usage patterns, things like that. And then eventually what we want to do is get to something maybe a little bit more robust, to actually go out and build our own solar farms. And it all kind of ties up to some of the bigger use cases we have with some of the stuff that you can talk about. But there's a significant amount of data that's out there that's already being produced through sensors. And there's a number of different platforms, and I've been in the space for 20 years, know most of those people, to figure out how to integrate from their perspective, taking their platforms, putting it on the blockchain to make it more secure, doing a rev share, understanding now that we have all this data that we can actually massage through to figure out what our next product is.
Interesting. So we're talking, sounds like maybe 1,000 data points per house on average that you're pulling from, and you're using that you can use it at least to study like generalized human behavior, right? And then kind of feed that as marketing information to other companies.
You could. A little sensitive about that.
Yeah,
we don't
for
want to
sure.
be sharing PII, number one. And sensitive
Absolutely.
information is also very important when you're your customers.
Yeah.
It goes back to what I said. If it's really, really good for the customer, in my mind, save them money.
Yeah.
And it's accretive to the business, then it was something that we were going to go down. I would say the first 20 ideas that we kind of sat on, we said no, it didn't fit that criteria. But yeah, that's kind of how we landed on where we are.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the wallet and all of that could
and
help
that's
protect my data.
exactly. Well, it also gives you the choice of how to interact with it. So like there's that common phrase, was it coined by Forbes or whoever, that data is the digital oil?
Yeah.
Right? Or that classic phrase, right? And
Yeah.
so whether people know it or not, they're oil wells. And companies have successfully monetized that. And many, that's like what Web 2 is built on.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and we can run the same play. We know how to do that. Like we know how to monetize it. We have partnerships that we could go do that again. However, what we're trying to take a stance in is we're inserting the wallet into it. We're inserting friction into that data flow, that oil flow, to put some valves on there and handing the keys over to the user. So the user can flip a switch of saying, you know what, I don't want to be advertised to using my data. I can turn that off.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out, and we're in ideation phase and prototyping and all of that, of trying to figure out like, how does that actually work? Because a really clear thing from talking with users is that there are no users that want to spend a couple hours out of their day or even out of their year managing their data. So it has to be incredibly easy to use.
Right. It'd have to be like
intuitive.
a VPN. I download it, set it up. Now I have control of my data, right? I can at least anonymize it, and then I'm a happy camper.
Yeah. Or I can maybe go to a dashboard and click a few toggles.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm good.
You can show my shopping activity, or you can show my sleeping activity, however you want to be advertised to. That's a really cool play. I think that's ultimately where a lot of crypto is going to end up. That this, not necessarily in the tokens or anything, it's just this ability to control what people see about my digital behaviors, right? With the financial industry right now, a lot of there's a lot of granular detail for fraud prevention in different technologies. So for instance, biometric data can now even include how a person normally holds their phone, so that we can tell if they're on like a phone farm or somebody's trying to crack into your stuff for account takeovers and things. And it seems like this would be a really cool way to leverage that, being able to say, well, if it's for security, you can share my information, but
Yeah.
if it's for advertising, then no. You know,
Yeah.
give me reasons.
Or
to
these are the people that I'm going to allow to
Yeah.
advertise to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like you control it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And then what was the third call to action?
So the other two call to actions were Oven Solar,
Oh, yeah.
getting a free consultation
Yeah.
for residential solar panels and on your home, and then smart home consultation as well. Was
Cool.
The third.
That's awesome. How's the solar been going?
So solar's going great. It's an initiative that we launched in the beginning of this year. We're doing straight residential sales at this point.
Okay. Knocking doors.
Knocking doors. There's
Yeah.
SEO, there's pay per click. There's all different ways to
Yeah.
do it that many solar companies out there are using it now. So we got out in front of it through some old relationships that I've had. Oven is a wholly owned subsidiary of Smart, just at arm's length. And so we are out we launched in Vegas, I don't know, a month and a half.
Yeah, April.
Yeah. And so it's off to a great start. I think you'll see, I would follow it because I think in the next, 12 months or so, you'll see that we are building the fastest growing residential solar company in the United States, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Road to profitability is quick.
hmm
Obviously doubling down on that so we include more data with the installations and what have you, and potentially acquiring an EPC, which is an installation company, really makes the customer journey a lot better. It's also more accretive. There's more margin in it. So those things are all actually happening right now in that short period of time. And so we're producing a significant amount of accounts, an enormous amount of revenue, and we're in negotiations with an EPC already.
That's awesome. What do you have as far as plans for? I imagine that the next process of 5 years or so, you're going to be needing to do upgrades on the systems themselves to get this kind of data and anonymize it the way that you want, like to make it as secure. Do you have a plan for what those enhancement pathways look like?
I would say
for your
it's safe
customers?
I'd say it's safe to say we have a direction.
Okay.
Right now, right?
Yeah.
We've recognized that that's a problem. Right?
Yeah.
That like these are 25-year-old systems,
Yeah.
and whether that's even down to like basic things or not even super complex things like tokenomics. Like how do we make sure that the reward system aligns with a 25-year relationship?
Yeah.
Or the actual hardware of like updates. I was watching a video just the other day on new solar technology and like I'm not a solar expert, but I'm trying to like make sure I'm educated, and that's what we're trying to do. That's our process, is like try to absorb as much data as we can all the time so that we can make those decisions and figure out where do we need to add stuff or upgrade stuff. And so I can't give you a straight answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have more of an answer you want to give?
I think the technology in the last 5 years is probably where we can actually utilize some of that data now.
Okay.
Unlike the security industry and the smart home industry, you're right. There's a lot of installations out there. There's millions of them that, you really can't collect that data. There's no real mechanism to do it.
And you need to go out and enhance their system in order to do
exactly.
so. Yeah.
And so that's expensive, and, it's very fragmented. So working with the platform companies that have been around for like the last 10 years, I'm pretty certain that this is just an assumption, but 90+% of all the installations for smart home, security, what have you, have all been platform based. All that data is being accumulated, like the data that I was talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So those partnerships and immediately getting that data accessible to us is something that we're really looking at.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then with I guess same question for the smart home stuff. Like what's the pathway as a customer to, like, I have a consultation, and then like what's the turnaround before I have something installed on my wall?
Yeah, so two really interesting pieces there. So if we're doing it right, I could sell you smart home, whether it's through my SEO campaigns, pay-per-click, digital marketing, direct to home. If it's direct to home, I could probably put it in same day 90% of the time, so the experience is immediate. I kind of liken that to what I would refer to as you go buy a car, you want to drive it off the lot.
Yeah, right.
So that's the smart home side. And we get that equipment, that those peripheral devices, 10 to 13 devices, maybe as much as 16 devices per home, to get as much of that household data as possible and get it up and running as soon as possible and onto the platform.
What are the devices like outside of, cameras, panels? What else exists?
Lights, locks, thermostats, peripheral devices, security devices. There's a lot water devices. There's all kinds of stuff out there that we can monitor or monetize and monitor and protect the consumer. The other thing is what we've learned in the last, call it 5 or 6 years, is solar's a little bit different. Like we sell a solar system through whichever campaign we're selling it under. there's a number of different things that you have to do. You have to get inspections. You have to go get permitting. These are things that are outside, let's say, the installing or selling company's control.
Mhm.
And so one of the things we've learned over that period of time is, once that is sold, giving them a smart home experience that same day I'm there actually drives down the breakage or the attrition substantially, where in fact we could probably, I know we can do it for free because the amount of breakage that we're saving is more accretive than actually giving away that system.
Mm.
So on the solar side, it's really there to build an experience day one, just like on the smart home side.
Yeah.
But it's also really there to protect what we sold and make sure it gets installed and people get paid.
Yeah.
And the consumer starts saving money.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. How soon are you hoping to be working with the installation companies?
It's interesting. So right now we're working, if you're talking about the solar side, we're working with a number of them now.
You got
some
a
of the
few.
largest in the country, some
Awesome.
people we've had past experience with. And then ultimately you want to control that experience. And I don't think you'll always have the capability to install all of your sales, depending on where you go, because you kind of have to grow into that. So you always have partners until you're ready to do that.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, like we have a roadmap where we said, about 6 months ago, we wanted to do a number of different things. And one of them with success was to go acquire an EPC, an installing company.
Yeah.
And we're in negotiations now to do that. And so less than 6 months in, we're pretty close.
Yeah, that's cool. So then you acquire it, and then, the cost goes down for installation in general.
Yeah, it's way more creative. You get to share their margin. The consumer journey is way better.
Yeah.
Like the time to install is way better.
Yeah, that was separate industry, but knocking doors in my 20s. If I could get something on the roof for them that day, it was way more likely to happen anyway, right? Just the promise of, no, they'll be here in 20 minutes. They're waiting for me to call.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's cool. What are your thoughts about the tokenomics? Like, what are your ideas there?
Go ahead. I shift uncomfortably because it's such an interesting question. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he's had some experience building tokenomics before, and he even went to he went and spent like a month in Stanford, and just was had lunch every day with the Stanford professor, and the professor basically was like, hey, if you figure out the viable platform or the viable tokenomics model, I'll give you a seat at Stanford. I'll give you tenure. I'll give you a teaching. You can go teach a class. Right?
Yeah, that's wild.
And so it's it's that wicked of a problem.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
It's the epitome of wicked problems. And so we're still trying to figure it out. Yeah. Frankly, we recognize, based off of the calculations that we've done and the thoughts that we've done, that there's opportunity to fine tune the system. Yeah. Fine tune and work it out. We're reaching out and talking with people outside of Nerd, inside of Nerd, trying to get as much information as we can. So if anybody listening wants to come chat or wants to nerd out with us, I'm so hungry. We are so hungry.
Cool. And so if there's people out there who have that information or think they do, I'll give you Thomas's cell phone number.
That's perfect. And that's kind of why I asked, because I know it's a monster, and at this point, just hearing the ideas as they bubble up is what do you, maybe, maybe.
Yeah, and there's so many levers you can really pull. There's quantity, there's reward mechanism, there's distribution mechanism, there's NFTs you can bring in. Yeah, there's the schedule. Do you want to do halving? Do you want to do not halving? Do you want to do something algorithmic X squared, or square root of X, so it tears off? A really interesting question that I've come across is that when I've talked to different consultants, or just even people around, one of their first questions is, what do you want the token to do? Yeah. Do you want it to be a stable coin? So do you want supply to be released relatively proportionate to growing demand? Or do you want it to be more dynamic or more volatile and pump a bunch into the economy and see what happens
with it?
And so, I had a conversation this morning with another crypto friend based in London, and she was like, the funny thing is, we build these beautiful models and these simulations, and then we turn them over to the market, and the market just does whatever the heck it wants. There is no choice at the end of the day, and but that is crypto. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of that we don't control the mechanism. We don't control the value of that. but we can control value creation and solving problems for the user.
Yeah.
And that's where we focus.
Yeah. So that's probably the most important question outside of even the tokenomics and the way that it integrates with the system and different ways that you can do that. What's the actual customer experience you're looking to give that I couldn't get from, one of the competitors that's Web 2 and just working their asses off right now?
Yeah. We're still trying to nail that down exactly. We're trying to find product market fit.
Yep.
And really that the thing where it comes down to is this really interesting spot of like, you want high interactions with the user.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're the most engaged, they're the most using it. But from a user's perspective, when you think about a smart home or you think about your data, automation is the goal.
Yeah. I
right?
don't want to
so,
interact.
Yeah, you don't want to interact. And so is there a way, and so we're trying to find that balance of like, how do we incentivize and how do we promote behavior that is engaging in a way that somebody enjoys, but isn't the busy work
Are
of managing those
you
things.
exploring any form of like AI modeling to help manage some of the smart home stuff?
Yeah.
And for me, like as a user, I think that it would be pretty cool for anytime I had the opportunity to help train the model, I would get a reward for it, right? Where I can go, oh yeah, no, I wasn't here. You can turn the heat down. It's fine. I'm at work. I'll let you know if I'm back, that kind of stuff. Anytime I can interact with the cool thing and get a reward for it, I'd be interested in it. But otherwise, I've got some smart stuff at home and I don't want to touch it. Now that I have it where
you got to fine tune.
Yeah. I set the thermostat to where I set it on purpose.
Yeah.
I will add this. I think AI is that concept's used quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot of people have actually fulfilled on it.
Yeah.
But to your point, like with what Thomas is talking about, and in my former life, and you're talking about smart home will never have scalability if it's not simple.
Yeah.
Right. It's got to be really simple. And so you're like, hey, you were talking about rewards. That's exactly where I'm thinking. It's like, hey, I don't ever touch my smart home, and I probably have 40 devices and 12 cameras. Never do it. I don't lock my doors.
Right.
I don't set my alarm. I don't do anything. It gives me a notification of like something outside of what the rules or scenes or whatever it is. The actual AI as it's learning, including like your thermostats and what have you.
Yeah.
And occupancy, it tells you like in my home, like if I'm gone for a period of time, it knows I'm out of town and therefore it puts it back into an ecosystem.
It expects a certain amount of people in the house.
And it just takes all the peripheral data, brings it in and just makes smart decisions for you. So we're not there yet. Some others are. Obviously, the system in my house has figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
Others are kind of near followers.
Yeah.
And so there's ways to do that. And so we're going to kind of leverage that experience with any partnership or anything else that we build, because I think that's the smart way to go.
Yeah.
Because it's simple.
Yeah. But I love your point about being able to interact with it and help train the model. I with my smart home system that I have, one of the most frustrating things to me is that I'm sitting at dinner in the middle of winter, right? And it's freezing cold outside. My house was right at the temperature that it wants. And all of a sudden the fan comes on and it's blowing massively cold air. And next thing you know, I'm bundling with a blanket. I got my boots on. I got my winter coat on. I got my beanie on. I'm like, it's just freezing cold. But then I go over to the panel and I'm like hitting it, like, stop cooling my house. Like I'm comfortable and I can't do anything. Like I'm locked out.
It's like, no, you said.
Yeah, exactly. You said to do these parameters. And I would love to be able to have more transparency.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to say, no, override.
Yeah.
Like,
I was wrong
stop.
about my program.
Yeah.
No, I have a similar experience, but it's, at night when the heater kicks on, I'm like, I'm never sleep. I'm done.
Yeah.
I needed to be ice cold in my house. It'll just kick on. So those would be exactly the moments where I'm thinking like I would want to go and correct what the expectations are easily, right? Because that's the hardest part is if I want to like reset my weekly temperature schedule, I have to go through like every day.
Yeah, every day.
I have to step through the whole thing. When in reality, it's like, no, right now, from here on, now, I want you to change.
That's a great point, though, and also inserting like feedback and the reward system that we were talking about. So, like as an example, like the leading smart home product for quite a while, which is now owned by Google, was Nest. And it's probably what you were scheduling because it sounds like you're doing it day by day. And so Nest is smart with a one-to-one app at the time, but it's only smart in its field of view.
Yeah.
Right. So it can only see what's in front of them. So it doesn't take peripheral devices into account. But like an example like that, if you were to bring that to me and I was either partnered with a service provider or we were doing it ourselves, is I would say, okay, that's a very, very good point. Like you should be able to override that stuff. Like, and by the way, are you going to set the same schedule in Utah when it's 100 degrees in the summer, or are you going to set it the same way that it's like 20 degrees in the winter?
Right.
No, there's anomalies, and so you got to be able to do that. You got to make it easy. You got to do it through your app. You got to be able to override it. You know, maybe you like your home at 72 degrees. I happen to be like you. I like it at 68.
Yeah, 68.
It's maybe a little cooler at
Yeah,
night.
that's where I sleep.
But if I'm having, you know, 30 kids over on a trampoline and going crazy, running inside and outside the house, well, I've got to be able to override that.
yeah,
Right?
right, yeah.
So
Or it's just going to
totally
be
agree.
working
And,
all
and
day.
you're
right.
like all that dollars are just going to be just draining down the
If a
pipes.
user, if
Yeah.
a community member, whatever has an idea that says, hey, look, you know, this is a problem that needs to be solved, and either we or collectively we can build together something that fixes that, they should be rewarded for it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool concept. I'm excited to see as we go, and you know, over the course of the next 18 months, as you get these a lot more finished and stuff, let's come and talk again and
We'd
Yeah,
love that.
see where
Yeah.
we're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good talk, guys.
Yeah.
Great,
Thanks
great
for
working with
time.
you guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we get done here, I'll give you guys my contact info.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll just have you send me all the information you want.
Yeah, that works.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so
Fun
much,
stuff.
guys.
All right, guys.
I couldn't tell if you're supposed to like look at the camera or like
Yeah.
keep within this like
Oh, no, no.
two-dimensional
I
plane.
know, it's kinda
of,
hard when we're
like-
sitting right next to each other.
Yeah.
Well, in the podcast, you have to like just talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to. But I just kept on finding myself like,
Whereas
like,
the camera's
looking
going-
at
at least you
this
were
and,
looking at me.
yeah, at least I had you to
I'm
look
a little
at.
prettier than that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So how